What's up everyone, Lance Hedrick here, and today I'm really excited to share with you this new project. Now over the years there have been a plethora of modifications that have been brought to the table to be implemented on the Gaggia Classic Pro and the variants. Whether that's PID controller that's sold by Shades of Coffee up in the UK, all these different things that have been attempts at making an off-the-shelf, solid quality built machine capable of much more than it's worth. Now, of course, this really kind of optimized its presence with the Gaggimate project, which I've made a couple of videos on that you should definitely check out if you haven't. They'll be in the description below. But essentially, what all of these are trying to do is emulate the capabilities of much more expensive espresso machines, considering that the vast majority of us around the world cannot afford and will never be able to afford a $3,000 or more espresso machine, but want the capabilities that those can give us. These types of modifications are incredible, I think, for home enthusiasts and those who like to tinker. Two little guys will be routed into this green little doodad. I don't know all the technical terms, I just know how to plug and play things. While I still love the Gaggimate project, it's not as accessible to everyone as maybe it once was when you were able to kind of change some things. For instance, I have a longtime viewer on this channel who has a DeLonghi stylosa. He wanted to do the Gaggimate to it. The original code was able to be changed for your different single boiler dual use machines. But that was, I believe, version 2. Now it's at version 4 and it can only really work with the Sylvias and the Gaggia Classics. Although they have their reasons for going closed, that has caused some issues for people who maybe wanted to try it out or wanted to make some changes themselves, but everyone has their reasons, so we just won't really get into that. But I did make a call and say, if this frustrates you, then write your own code. So there was one guy who actually did that. Now, he was already working on this before I made that video, so I'm not saying he did that in response. This is much further along than anyone could have gotten between that video and now. But the creator's name is Jochen Niebuhr, and he was inspired to actually contribute to this growing field of modifications by his own experience. He has a Gaggia Peros, which if you're unfamiliar, that is similar to this in that it's a single boiler dual use machine, but it has a built-in grinder. So he wasn't able to find any of these cool kind of modifications that were compatible with a machine like that. He didn't want to just do a PID controller either. So being a software engineer, software developer, he figured, well, I'll use my DIY kind of survival kit I have at home and I'll tinker and try to figure it out myself. And, well, he did. Now, before we continue going on with this, I would ask that you hit the like and subscribe if you have enjoyed previous content. And if this is your first video, well, welcome to the channel. I'm Lance Hedrick, and we do some weird coffee stuff here. He posted some pictures online and it got a lot of interest. And so he decided to kind of bring up the efficiency and the componentry and make it all a little bit more polished and bring it to the world. It is licensed under the Creative Commons by NCSA 4.0. which in short means anybody can share and adapt as long as they do not use it commercially. He has the capability of you doing your own Lego build. He has the way of doing it on his website that's laid out clearly. If you want to buy the components, solder yourself, make your own PCB and all of that good stuff, or you can do kits from him, which he is doing at very aggressive pricing in my opinion. Of course, it's not at cost because he's putting the work in order to get it all good, but we'll go over that pricing here in a little bit. And now he wants to make it work with a lot more machines. He even brought up to me that he would hope to make it extend to things like thermoblocks and the like, which I think would be incredibly exciting. But it's still really early in its development, so what I'm going to show you today is where it's at currently and what he is planning to do in the coming months. Now, obviously, what you see is very simple. It's just a little nice circular screen, which is a departure from the typical rectangular screen that's kind of mounted on the front of my machine. Of course, you could mount it with magnets as well, and it depends on the machine that you use. You can install this on a lot of different machines already. I just chose to do the Gaggia because I had this new E24 I put in a video recently, and I was like, oh, I've been in Gaggia so much the last couple of years, it'll be a lot faster to just do it there because I know the insides. So what we have when we first look at the machine is kind of a home screen setup where it has Gaggimate, it has a little touch logo, that's where you touch to kind of boot it up, and then the time, which I have not set, and then it shows that we're connected to Wi-Fi as well as Bluetooth. Now, as you can see, I have a scale connected, so it already has the capability of Bluetooth pairing. It can pair to at least the Akaya and Buku. I don't know what else it pairs to, but I know it can do at least those two. And then we have, as you can see, a nice little graphic of the temperature. So right now it's overshot a bit and it's going to come back down to the temperature we have it set at, which is 90 degrees Celsius. Then we can set the output weight as well as the temperature there, and we can also set the time if we'd prefer to do it based off time, but I'm going to do it based off of weight, of course. So that's kind of the capability right now as far as the display goes. We can come down here and swipe up, and you can go to Steam, which this will get you in the steam mode, so it'll heat up a lot. So if you do have one of those machines that has a grinder built in, there is a space on the PCB in order to wire that in, but I don't have a grinder built in. And then we have for hot water, when it's coming out, you can control the temperature there. So we'll go back to brew. And this is what our kind of control is currently. Now you can get onto the local website. So if you go to gaggimate.local, once you have it set up, you can go through and change some of the parameters there, as well as pre-infusion and the like. So there are ways to do a blooming shot and all those things with the app as it stands, but there are loads of updates coming. In its current form, there is no pressure or flow profiling because there's no Bluetooth transducer for the pressure sensor. Now this is coming very soon and is an update that should happen the next 4 weeks or so from this video. So I'll definitely be updating my machine when that comes in. But he wants to keep it available without the plumb-in being a necessity, because he says there are lots of people who just want a more simple approach without as much intensive kind of DIY on the insides. So for this install, which doesn't include the pressure sensor, I would say if I bought everything fully ready, like if he's going to sell everything as a one-stop, if you want to just have everything in one go, I would say it would take me well under 3 hours to get everything implemented on the inside. Now, if you have a little bit more things that you need to do, like creating some of the wires, like the JST ports, it may take you a little bit longer. For me, because I had to do those, it took me closer to 4.5 or so hours in order to do this full install. Now going back in and redoing some of the plumbing might take another hour or two. So overall, if you're doing the full kind of kit whenever it's fully available, it will take you probably about 6 or 7 hours. So similar to other modifications that are like this, but as I said, he's going to keep it available without the pressure, the transducer, in case people want to have a more simplistic approach where you're just worrying about temperature, time, brewing by weight, pre-infusion, things that are much more easily controlled by just wiring differences. Now he will be adding an update soon where you can do PID tuning, which will be really nice. Right now, that's not really a capability. Thankfully, I have a SCASE device and I'm capable of setting a temperature offset inside of the monitor itself, inside of the display, in order to make my water coming out accurate to what it should be. But he'll have PID tuning coming soon, which I think will be a great option for people who don't have access to things like a SCASE device. He is going to make available a full bundle to get this integration like I have right here, available for 125 euros, which I think is actually a great price when you include all the different wires, all of the different work that'll go into it, as well as the 3D printed parts which you'll need in order to mount everything. It's pretty aggressive in my opinion, in order to have that all available for 125. And then when the transducer version is available with the pump dimming capability, the price for that will be 175 euros. So those are kind of the two prices that he's told me about in order to make this as accessible while also not being a silly thing for him to take on, because it still is just him. Now, I did ask him about potential suppliers. He's not working with any right now, but he's going to think very critically about that. And if he does want to do that, because they have so many kind of upgrades coming over the next however long, he is going to take very seriously who he might end up partnering with. So as you can see, it's really well thought out, really well put together, and very easy. So we have these JST ports right over here, and then these kind of areas where you have just like a simple ferrule connector, which will go straight in, you just tighten it. And then he has it conformally coated with a pretty thick coating, so it's pretty well waterproofed, which I'm very happy about. And then of course you have the USB port here, which you can put in to do straight into updates, but he does have OTA, over-the-air type of updates available as well. But this is always a nice backup regardless. So this is what you'll be getting for the PCB if you order from him. And then of course it has the kind of housing, which is 3D printed. Of course you can print your own, but this is how that works. So you just mount the board onto it, and then it closes in here, and then you put it in your machine right back here on the side. All the projects I've worked on came with pre-clamped JST ports, and I believe that when you buy a full kit, it should come with these wires. But I just need to show you, if you have fat fingers, this is the most annoying thing ever, and this is what ate up most of my installation time. You get these little goobers, which are teeny tiny itty bitty lemon squeezies. Then you have to put it into your crimper, which, good grief, it takes me forever because my fingers are so freaking fat. You line it up in the teeth of the right gauge size. You clamp it down just a bit so it holds. We're going to take our 26 AWG wire. We're going to thread it into that little hole. Not too far, not too shallow. Then we're going to squeeze until it clicks. And there we have our cramped on connector. And then this goes into this bad boy. Till it clicks. So there are different ports, like I said, on the PCB that you needed for that. Now, one of these is for a grinder and another is for a future edition, like I believe the pressure transducer. But we essentially had for the SSR, which is a relay we need inside the machine, is for one of these. For the screen, we needed one of these. But overall, it really wasn't it wasn't too difficult in order to get it all installed. And I should say that the instructions on his website are very straightforward, and he's only making them better. I gave him a lot of feedback as I went through it, asking for different pictures of different areas that would make it a lot more intuitive for anyone to kind of go in and build it. I like it when it's as simple as possible, where no questions really need to be asked. So loads of photos, loads of arrows and circles and things like that. Whereas it was already easy enough for me to do with minimal questions, I think it can be even easier, especially for those of you who may not be very good at tinkering. This could be a really great first kind of project for you. Anyway, let's pull a shot and then we'll open it up and take a look inside. So I've got this set for, let's just keep it here, 90 degrees Celsius, 50 grams output. We'll go ahead and get a shot ready for that. All right, so we have that initial fill phase. I have the grinds pretty coarse because, as you all know, I like my coarser shots. But anyway, here we're going. It should pull in about 20 seconds, I would say. Maybe a little bit more than 20. Let's see. It's a big shot. 50 gram output is a big boy. Okay, so wow, actually, it's right at 27 seconds for 49.8 grams. Boom. Big boy, 1 to 2 shot. I actually stuffed 25 in there. I lied. Look at that. That is heavy caffeine. That's going to make me wired for days. Now let's pull some cheeky soup with some ultralight coffee from the Picky Chemist and a step-down basket. As you saw throughout it, we could see the live temperature based off of the thermocouple we have put where one of the thermostats was on the boiler, which we'll see here in just a second. But I wanted to show you what, obviously it can pull nice shots. Now, I have not modified the pressure spring in here, so it's still at the stock like 12 or 13 bar, whatever that is. I did a reading on it in my video on this, and I can't really remember. But honestly, if you're pulling straight shots, I think it does a fine job hitting that pressure, and that's assuming it does hit that pressure. We got that 3-second filling rate, then we have a 1-second soak, and then boom, we're gonna just yeet until we're at our final destination. So the timer doesn't start until here, which I don't really like. So it says we're at 6 seconds, but we're really at like 4 or 10, I should say. So there's an extra 4 seconds. That pulled in 11 seconds, but in reality it was 15 from the first get-go. So I don't really like that it restarts the timer there. But anyway, this is a 15-second shot. It's beautiful. It could go with 1 or 2 seconds less, but that's nice. Fantastic. Let's take a look inside the machine, shall we? So like any respectable and responsible person would do, the first thing we're going to do is turn it off, unplug, remember. All right, so when you look at this, it looks like a disaster. I did not organize it super well because, well, I like to do things quickly. I did make sure it was all efficient. I separated high and low voltage, and it's good enough away where it's not going to cause any troubles for me, so no worries there. But essentially, you're going to see a lot of the original wiring is still here. All this over here throughout the back is all original. The things that are different are essentially the purple and this red. This is all the stuff that I have added, as well as some jumpers over here. But essentially, what you have is the SSR unit right back here. This is a big relay that's going to help with heating. So this needs to be working if you want your machine to actually heat up. Down here on the side, we have a thermoprobe that is stuck into where a thermostat was. So this is the cord right here that goes to the PCB, which is housed in this unit. So we took a look at the PCB earlier. As you see, there are a lot of wires coming out of here up to the Bruce switches and back to the SSR, as well as one down to the pump, which is right back here. We have up here on the Bruce switches, we've got some changes going on. We have some jumped off to bypass the eco mode, which is standard in Europe. So this little jumper here is to bypass the eco mode by essentially tricking the machine into thinking it's continuously running. But yeah, so really what we're doing is we're changing a lot of the cords from the switches, a lot of, switching around up there. The heating element ones up top, they stay the same. You just want to have everything labeled so that it's easy for you to kind of go back and forth. But yeah, for the most part, everything is outlined pretty easily on the website. We did switch out one cord on the solenoid valve, but other than that, it's pretty straightforward. I know it doesn't seem like that because for some of you it's your first time looking at a machine, but if you just kind of, and the reason, by the way, I have this safety tape is because on these newer Gaggias, on the front switches, they have these black plastic boxes, and so the female spades are actually not insulated. So when you pull this out, the female spade is bare. This is the insulation itself, and since I couldn't reuse this for some of the plugs on the others, and I needed to use the female spades for other applications, they were uninsulated. So I insulated it with this tape, this self-adhesive tape that is proper for wiring. But anyway, and then I just put a little thingamabob right here. I can't remember what it's, zip tie. Put a little zip tie right there. But essentially, that's all that there really is going on. The blue-headed ones are ones that I've added, but yeah, that's kind of what you're adding in here. The SSR unit, the PCB, and then a few extra wires, and you're, changing some, pulling some out, replacing some. One that you're not even going to use anymore, so I just capped it off. But eventually I will be putting the transducer, which will probably lay down right down here like it does in the Gaggimate, and it will connect also to like to the OPV, for instance, and it'll have to do some replumbing. So OPV right here. And but yeah, that's pretty simplistic. That's what the insides look like. Nothing too intense. That is the Gaggimate in its current form. I'm very much looking forward to future iterations, future updates, upgrades like using that pressure transducer in order to do flow and pressure profiling and unlocking all of the capabilities that this already has built into the hardware. We just got to get the software there going. For instance, some of these PID controllers options out there are 70, 80, 90 bucks. You can get this, which has PID control, obviously, and a nice display, and it's integrated a lot better for 125. I have these wires out. Normally I have them taped right behind that ridge, so apologies on that. But anyway, so I think this is a really nice option for a lot of people who may not want the full Gaggimate experience. That being said, it does seem like they're going in the same route of Gaggimate, as in opening up everything for the tinkerer, for the person who wants to do a ton of stuff. I do think with that, a bigger screen is likely going to be needed. I really like doing the things on a screen itself. I don't like having to rely on a phone as much, so being able to do it on the Gaggimate screen is really nice, especially now that they have the bigger display. But I'm really excited that there's someone else out there who's doing this kind of for the community with that open source, with that, or that, I guess, available source code, with the Lego build, with the capability of and adaptability to fit with other machines, and the desire to work with things like thermoblocks, which I am definitely most keen about, is to be able to modify like a Breville Barista Express that has a built-in grinder and a thermoblock. So I think things like this are really exciting. There's one other I am aware of that's building another Gaggia style modification. competition that I'm really looking forward to, and I will keep you updated on that. And as this progresses, I'll also keep you updated on it because this stuff really excites me, and I really enjoy getting inside and playing with wires and electrocuting myself. So that is it for me today. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Again, if you have not hit the like and subscribe and you enjoy the content, I'd really appreciate that. It helps the channel a whole lot in growing. And yeah, if you want to check out my Patreon, that would be cool too. That's how I'm able to buy a lot of this stuff, and then I give it back to the community through competitions and whatnot. Just gave away a niche duo through a competition, and we done the MHW3 Bomber. We've done the Omkopi lever. We've done the Lalit Mara X. We've done, I mean, loads and loads and loads of cool stuff. So if you're interested in that, take a look at that down below. Otherwise, I hope that you brew something tasty today. And cheers.